You may well have heard about this over the last few days, but match officials are getting new powers. You'll see them at this summer's World Cup, and many of them in the Premier League next season. Our football correspondent Rob Dorset has joined us to talk through exactly what's changing. And Rob, I want to start with second yellow cards.
Yeah, that one's pretty self-explanatory. We knew this one was coming for a while. It's been a weird anomaly in the game that the VAR has been able to look at red cards and whether they're right, but they haven't been allowed to look at yellow cards, a second yellow cards, crucially, which of course leads to a sending off. So I think IFAB, the International Football Association Board, they changed the laws this time every year. They have their AGM. They had it over in Wales on Saturday, and they decided that they're going to iron out that little loophole and make sure that VARs can look at yellow cards, but only a yellow card when it's the second one. You're not going to get the VAR looking at the first yellow card and saying, well, actually, that one shouldn't have been done, and so he shouldn't have been sent off.
Yeah, so you're just opening up a gold can of worms for it then, aren't you? Because if the second yellow is a yellow card, and it includes to be a red card, but the first one isn't, then what you're doing, you're just almost causing more problems than what it's worth. This is what happens all the time. We never just stick to our game and what we've got. We want to add in bits that were going to help. But what happens if 20 minutes ago before that the first yellow card wasn't a yellow?
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to avoid too many interruptions to the game as well. Because if the VAR has to check 2 yellow cards, imagine the time delay you're going to have to do that.
No, of course, which I totally understand.
You've already seen the first one, though. They could have already seen the first one in preparation for if there's a second.
Yeah.
But then it's going back. You're not going back to it.
I made too much sense there, didn't I?
Too much sense.
I think we had a big debate on what will you change about football. It could be anything. We did it last Friday. We had an amazing reaction to it, but 90% of it was either get rid of VAR or have less VAR. This is more VAR.
But what
is that a negative?
It's in the game. Like, it's going to be in the game. We like it. It's a positive or a negative.
Putting more in.
Yeah, but this is a problem. VAR should have worked in football. But as always, our product, we want to add it and put our own spin on it. And what we've done is just confused everyone. We've confused the players, the coaching staff, people that work in the media, the paying public, the fans, everyone that loves football. We've just confused everyone because we wanted to add our own spin on it and caused ourselves more problems. Hence why we talk about it every single week.
But what I think we forget is we used to talk about refereeing decisions all the time. And if you go back pre-VAR, everybody, every single fan, everybody in the media, every manager, every player was saying, we've got to get some technology in because we're getting too many decisions wrong. There's a real choice here. There's a fundamental choice. You either have VAR or you don't. You either want more decisions right but accept there's going to be more interruptions to the game, or you don't and you accept there's going to be more wrong decisions. There is something that's really key here, though, Tom, that you hit there. You said we're getting more VAR. The PGMO, the Premier League, the English football authorities are determined to avoid VAR creep. They don't want more VAR. They don't want it to go into more and more detail about some of the lesser decisions. IFAB, and in particular FIFA, very much do. Pierluigi Collina, you'll remember him, the referee, was one of the best referees the world's ever seen. He's their head of referees. He's pushing for more VAR. We're going to go on to talk about VAR potentially looking at corners at the World Cup. I can tell you now, the Premier League and the Scottish Premiership, I think, are very unlikely to go for it. The Premier League don't want it, and they will, because it's optional, they won't have it. But FIFA are pushing it. And I think a fundamental concern here is, if a corner is given incorrectly in a World Cup final, and it leads to somebody winning the World Cup when they probably shouldn't have done, that's massive for FIFA. For the Premier League, it's on about a 38-game season. There's going to be a lot of decisions.
Of course, but I just feel like it is a knock-on effect within English football as well with the VAR, because we say, it takes so long, it's just another bit where we seem to take ages for corners, we take ages for throw-ins, goal kicks. It's just a knock-on effect where we're kind of jumping on it. VAR, it works when it's used properly. For me, it works when it's used properly, but we try and confuse the lines and everyone doesn't understand actually what's going on.
Just to confirm, over here, we're not going to do this.
So
but it is at the World Cup.
IFAB made a load of law changes on Saturday, which will come into effect for the start of next season, but they'll be trialled at the World Cup, so expect to see them in the World Cup. Let me run them through you very quickly. Second yellow cards we've just talked about. They're going to try and cut down on time wasting some more, which we'll talk about in a moment as well. And they've decided that they will have VAR to review corners at the World Cup, but that isn't been made statute in law. It's not a change to the laws of the game. So it's optional for individual competitions to decide if they want to introduce it or not. I can tell you now the Premier League will not introduce it. The PGMO will not introduce it. We will not be having that unless it is made law in years to come, and we have to. But as I say, the Premier League and the PGMO and the officials in this country are very, very keen to limit the scope of VAR. They want it to look at red cards, goals and penalties, game-changing decisions, so that they limit the amount of interruption they have to the flow of the game. FIFA has a slightly different perspective.
You mentioned kind of time wasting, didn't you, and getting rid of it. Let's start with throw-ins. What's the plan there in terms of speeding up the game?
Well, we knew. I wrote a piece for the Sky Sports app at the end of last week saying that this was going to be on the agenda, a 5-second rule to take a throw-in. And I did some analysis, said this could be the death of long throws. You can't get everybody up in 5 seconds or the rest of it. They've now clarified the situation, IFAB, after that AGM on Saturday and said it's down to the discretion of the referee, Charlie, to decide when to start the 5-second countdown. So if the ref decides that a player's time wasting, taking their overthrow, they will then give them a visual 5-second countdown. If they don't do the throw-in in those 5 seconds, they'll reverse the throw-in.
In the game at the moment, one person is running from right back or left back, respectfully, and running to the opposite side of the pitch to take the throw-in. So we go from as soon as the thrower has the ball in his hand, again, we are just adding to it. You can't just go, the closest person to the pitch takes the throw-in. It doesn't work like that. But again, it's down to the referee's discretion. And are we putting too much more on that? Just kill it off, and they have to be stronger in these certain things. No one wants this time. They've taken ages for these, but we're going on these 5-second countdowns. Will we see it come into effect? I'm not too sure.
It is interesting because some of the high-ranking referees that I've spoken to are a bit worried. If they've got to count 8 seconds for when the goalkeeper's got the ball in hand that we've seen this season, and that seems to work, they've got to count 8 seconds for that. They've got to count 5 seconds for a throw-in. They've got to count 5 seconds for a goal kick to be taken as well. They're a bit worried that the referee's going to be focusing so much on his stopwatch and counting down, he's not going to be looking so much at the control of the game.
I get the throw-in bit. The biggest thing is the goal kicks.
And that's
isn't it? The goal kick.
It's when they place the ball down and then, hang on, we're going to change it over to the other side of the 6-yard box.
Bang your boots.
All this kind of stuff. But it does come down to the strength of the referee and him being so solid on his decisions.
But the crucial factor here, Charlie, is that the referees have already had these powers to crack down on time wasting, but the only punishment they've been able to give is a yellow card. That's now gone. If you're time wasting at a throw-in, the throw-in goes to the other side. So you nullify the advantage of time wasting. If you take too long over a goal kick, it becomes a corner for the opposition. And we know how many goals have been scored in the Premier League from corners this season. So IFAB hope that these time-wasting measures, these new measures, will crack down on it because people won't want to...
Yeah, but they can crack down on it, but it comes down to the strength of the referees. And are they going to be brave enough to blow the whistle and give what was a goal kick a corner? And was they going to change it over for a throw-in set? We see people take throw-ins 15 yards ahead of where the ball actually goes out of play, and nothing gets said on the point. So until the referee these rules come in, the referees are strong enough to make these decisions, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, they'll be strong enough for the big clubs, but not for the smaller clubs, I can assure you of that. Coach's Challenge.
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
So this wasn't on the agenda at IFAB, but it was something they discussed. And it's been in the ether for a while now. It's something that FIFA, I think, are very keen on. And I think, do you know what? The Premier League might be keen on this one. Because they don't want this VAR creep, they don't want it looking at more and more small decisions. It was something that was discussed at IFAB, which may come in as a trial at some point later next year, about the coaches having each 2 challenges. Now, we used to see it in cricket, aren't we? So it's very simple. It's just like cricket. If the manager or the head coach decides that he doesn't like a decision, he can then stick his arm up or do whatever or talk to the 4th official and there will be an official VAR challenge.
But is he going to stop the game then, Rob?
Yeah.
He's just going to stop the game?
Yeah.
So we have more stoppages in the game.
But, and you're right, that's
when's that moment gone? Do you know what I mean? How long is the knock-on effect from it? Is it like instant within 10 seconds or what is it? We can't go back.
And can you use that as a time-wasting measure later on in the game? If you've not used your 2 challenges, does the manager of a winning team who's 1-0 up go, let's appeal that one? But... and this is why I think it appeals potentially to the FA and to the Premier League, is if they bring this in England, they will want to reduce the number of VAR decisions that can be looked at. So anything that's subjective from the referee, handball, penalty, that sort of thing, that will have to come down to a coach's challenge, whereas the VAR will only look at factual decisions. You know, was the ball over the line? Was the foul inside the penalty box and it should be a penalty?
We're just confusing us, adding more rules. For me, we are.
But you'll get used to it. You know, VAR was complicated when it first came in. We got used to it.
Yeah, but
not everybody likes it.
We'll be trying to add something else. So we'll have a captain's on-field challenge soon. That'll be the next thing that's coming.
Well, let's see what some of the viewers think. I think Jim has sent us a voice note.
There's too much technology now, I think. The referees aren't thinking for themselves. They never look at the quadrants when there's a corner. And even in a free kick, when the referee draws a line, the players still have to put the ball in front of the line. The players need to start having a look at themselves.
I get the quadrant one, but that's the linos. That's the linos. They're standing there for that, aren't they?
There is no doubt, by the way, and it's just definite. The referees aren't giving decisions because they've got the safety net of VAR. That is happening right now.
Yeah, that is happening.
Do we want more of that or less?
I
than
don't
that?
think that's fact.
I think it's happening.
Visually watch it.
I think that's wrong.
Visually
I think
watching
the
it feels
referees are-
like
I
it
do
is.
a lot of work with the referees and with the PGMO, and I know that they try very, very hard to make the on-field decision correct. And actually, what you're seeing now, the VAR is being more deferential to the on-field decision. If there's any subjectivity there, they'll say, we'll stick with the on-field decision. It was made clear at the start of the season. So actually, I'm not sure that's right. It's a conception amongst fans, definitely. There's definitely a feeling in the game that referees are bottling some of the big decisions because they know they've got the backup of VAR. I don't actually think that's true. And I think the fact that the VARs defer to the on-field decision if there's any doubt or any subjectivity, that proves how important the on-field decision is.
Well, it's one of those moments where I hope that I'm wrong and that you're right. Rob, thank you very much indeed. Right, we're getting some fan reaction to this as well now because Sky Sports have partnered with Finalysis to discover true fan opinion. To have your say on your club, download the Finalysis app now. And you can do that by scanning the QR code on your screen for more details. Right, we're going to get the perspective now from a Brighton supporter, Mike King. Right, Mike, thanks very much for coming on. What do you make of that? What really stands out to you from all of those potential rules we were talking about?
I think it was really interesting listening to, both Rob's and Charlie's points. As a fan who watches a lot of football, not just Brighton, I go and watch lots of non-league. I do agree with lots of the cynicism that Charlie's put forward. I think of everything, very much the having, if you're going to review the second yellow, you kind of got to review the first one then because it's, you can't kind of have one way, one the other. I think a big thing for me is the, speeding up throw-ins and things. I mean, benefits me because as a Brighton fan, we're terrible at long throws. It's not something we picked up this season. So, but there's been a few times. I know when we played Crystal Palace, Jefferson Lerma took a fair bit of time taking his throw-ins. I think Brentford do it as well. There are a few other teams. I think it could then, in the long run, kind of drag the Premier League away from what's becoming a bit of a set-piece meta, which would be quite good to see. I think everyone wants to see the better goals. I think if you watch Brighton v Forest on Sunday, you'll see some cracking goals. You want to see more of that than set pieces. So I can see that. I think one thing I'm not, I am a huge fan of would be kind of the coach's role. Because it's something that I've thought about since VAR was introduced. You get some of these goals where it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it, and then it's kind of put under the microscope by VAR, and then kind of the passion's gone, and you've kind of had a goal that looked absolutely fine disallowed due to such a minor decision or just a minor thing. Not even offside. It might be someone standing in the way of the goalkeeper, for example, but he's kind of about 45 degrees out of sight. So it's little things like that. But do you mean you quite like the idea of the manager being able to challenge that? Yeah.
Is that what you meant? Because the thing
100%, yeah.
If it looked a goal and VAR rule it out, if a manager challenges, they're not going to give it to the manager, surely.
Oh, no, I might have misread that as if they can challenge it and call for a VAR thing as opposed
I see what you mean.
to
Sorry.
VAR.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's how I would see it. It
still comes down, Mike, on it. It still comes down to the strength of the referee and the people at Stockley Park and the VAR to make them kind of decisions. And once again, now it will just be another bigger talking point of happening that we are talking about VAR instead of the product that's on the field. I know it's a part of the game. I certainly didn't envision it being this big of a part of the game.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you. And I think, it takes away from kind of key moments. I think if you look at was it the Bournemouth-Sunderland game on Saturday? I think everyone viewed, I can't remember who it was, but one of the Bournemouth players pushed the Sunderland player in the box.
Yeah, Enzo Lefebvre was fouled in the box. It was very, very obvious. The referee didn't give it, and then VAR didn't turn over the referee. The referee was Jared Gillette. But
then the exact same foul happens kind of 20 yards up the pitch, and then it's a foul.
Correct.
I think things like that, times like that where, you know, you kind of see that there's not much bottle being shown by these refs and lots of kind of decisions not going the correct way. And I do think it comes down a lot to referee strengths.
Yeah, but it happened again with a high challenge on Granit Xhaka that wasn't red carded because the referee waited for VAR. VAR didn't overrule him, so I completely agree with you. I want to go back to the time wasting there because this season, what we haven't talked about much is that the referee, the goalkeeper rule of the 8-second rule, that has worked. That actually has sped the game up. So with the time wasting rules, I understand the complexities of the long throw-ins, etc., but that actually has been a positive this season, in my opinion. What do you think?
Oh, no, for sure. I think, you know, having these measures in place to stop time wasting has only been a good thing for the game. I haven't really seen it much in the Premier League, which, as you say, shows that it's been working. You can see from where I am behind the goalkeeper at the Amex, you can kind of see the ref putting his hand up and doing it all. So I can see it's all happening. And there's not many times when people are clarifying if it's, you know, happening or not. So I do think on that front, it is good because it is speeding the game up. I mean, we're all there to watch football, right? We're not there to watch people standing around and being a bit tactical. That's for kind of half time. You know, you want the game to be sped up and you want to see more of it. So I do think having something for, you know, corners and long throws would probably be a net positive for the game.
OK. All right, Mike, great to speak to you. Thank you.